Welcome back to our SwiftUI tutorial for beginners. In the previous video, we added the URL session and the URL cache for downloading the data from the API and also caching the image from the API. So both are actually a networking calls and things happening behind the scenes and asynchronous. So what happens is whenever you download things like that, whenever you make a asynchronous call or make an asynchronous blog, or potentially you are trying to process a huge amount of data behind the scenes, you might want to end up with, you might want to actually display some kind of spinner or progress view to show the user you are actually doing something. So user do not sit there or hang there, just nothing happens and wait until your data actually loaded. So in order to give user the better experience, we want to implement either the progress view, or if there's something happen, we want to show them an alert to tell them there's something going on. So in today's video, we will be talking about a custom alerts and progress view in the SwiftUI. These are both great features that can help you create more dynamic and interactive user interfaces. So let's get started. But before we continue, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any new videos. And if you have any questions, please comment down below and I will try to answer them to the best of my knowledge. So first, let's start with the custom alerts here. But before we actually continue to go in there to create our custom ones, let me show you what's the default one it is. So basically, in the SwiftUI, alerts are created using the alert struct, and the alert struct takes two arguments: the title and the message. By default, the alert is displayed with a single button that dismisses alert when tapped. So let me use this content detail to show you what's going on. So let me also run this app here so you can see what this page actually shows. So basically you tap in there, this is our content detail. You don't have anything there. We're going to add a button down below to show you that alert. So let's just add right It's called button action. We're gonna need to add a state. So let's add a state private var show alert equal to false. And then we want to call show alert. You can call equal to true, or you can use the built-in function for SwiftUI, which is a toggle. Toggle basically is it toggles the Boolean variables volume. So we can do that. And for this label, we want to tell the user for the testing purpose. So we're gonna say the demo alert. And then we want to use the alert built-in alert tool here. Basically, what we can do is just by typing is presented. We can use show alert action. We can just create our own alert here, taking in a title, which is going to be a text. It's going to say alert title, and message is going to say, we're going to say this is also going to be a text, and we're going to call it, this is an test for alert. Okay, and that's pretty much for the alert to be shown. So let's run this again. So let's demo it. Now you can see here's an alert title. This is a test for alert, but of course you can add in more button for it by the default kind, or we're going to use a customized alert. So basically, the reason to use the customized alert here, just in case this might not be efficient enough for some more complicated cases where you might need to have a more alert to show in the same view, or depending on your different task, you might have different alert to show. So when that happens, you're gonna have alerts like this all over the place to show the one particular alert. So in order to solve that problem, we want to create a alert detail, like a custom alert detail, a struct, so that we can actually utilize that to have a binding struct. So we can actually changing the data of struct just allow us to have one single alert, and we can actually show different data at different time or different section of the view. Okay, so now we want to create a alert detail. We're going to put that into this model file here. So let's call it alert detail. And then we're going to make this a struct, alert detail. And we're going to give a identifiable, so we can use the UUID to give this alert detail struct an ID each time it creates new one. So whenever your view trying to show a different alert, maybe at almost same time, it understand which alert you are trying to presenting. So let's give that ID we need. So let ID, go to UUID. Next is we want a title for this alert, for the whatever the alert we want to show. So let's call it string. And next we want to say let message string. And let buttons. We're going to give an array of buttons, so preferably a customized button, so that we know this alert needed. So in order to do that, we can actually create a struct called a button. And we're going to give a let a title. The button, of course, need a title for it. And let the role, button gonna have a role. It's gonna call button role. And you can see the button role is a value that describes the purpose of the button. Next, we want to call action. Give it a block so that whenever trying to create a custom button, we can actually give a some action to it if we want to have a different action than whatever default is. So next we want to create a init to help us to initialize this alert detail. So we're going to pass the all the object that all the variables on top except the ID. So we're going to pass the title to it. So it's going to be a string. Next we want to pass a message. It's going to be a string. And then we want to pass a buttons. That's going to be an array of buttons. Then default is going to be empty. So you don't have to create one, because if you just want to dismiss. So by default, we're going to have a ID equal to UUID. Basically, you're generating a random device ID number for each time you create a new one. Then next one, yeah, we do need a button role in the scope, so that is part of the SwiftUI module. So let's import that. And next, we want to call self.title equal to title, and self.message equal to message. Self.buttons equal to basically we want to say if the buttons is empty, if it is not empty, and then we want to use the buttons that we passed in. Otherwise, we want to create a default button that's using the title called maybe OK. Role is going to be cancel. But you can also see there's a destructive or cancel. Destructive basically going to make the button look red. Cancel pretty much is just the default one that you dismiss the alert. So we're going to use that for default. And for the actions, we can just give an empty action there. Let's just say do nothing for now. Okay, so now you have this alert details. Now we actually can go back and go to the content view again to update that alert. All right, so I did remember that we actually removed this. So let me put that thing back real quick. Okay, so next, in order to show that custom alert properly and in all over the place, we will actually need a help of a particular useful tool in the SwiftUI. It's called a view modifier. Basically, we want to create an extension of that view to actually have a customized modifier to modify this particular alert detail whenever we pass to it, so that we can keep the simplicity of the alert on each view. So let me go ahead to create that custom view modifier here. So you will understand once we do that. I would say custom view. So inside this custom view, we're going to create a new Swift file. We're going to call it a alert. We're going to call it a view and view extension, basically a view extension that's going to be a alert view. So we're going to import the SwiftUI as usual. Next, we want to create this. We want to actually create this extension first. So it's going to be an extension of the view, so that we can use that alert on each of the view. So for that, we want to create a function that's called pretty much almost exactly the same as the default ones, but with a few modifications. So we're going to say show alert. Now it's going to be a binding object, binding state object. So we're going to call it Boolean, and then we're going to call it alert details. Next, going to be a binding object as well, because we're going to pass the alert detail into this, and it's going to be optional, just in case we do not have. Then we want to call it return to a sum view, because that's the standard things for the SwiftUI. Next, we want to call the modifier, the view modifier, to modify that. Then we want to create actually a new struct for the alert view that we need to create. So we can use that alert view to actually handles whatever the data comes in. And this actually need to be conformed to the view modifier. And we want to create two binding object that we passed in. So it's going to be a binding show alert. It's going to be a Boolean. Next, going to be a binding and a var, going to be a alert details. And then we want to give a type alert details as optional as well. So next, that's going to be a function called body. Pretty much the default. Basically, this is going to be an implementation you have to do for this view modifier here. So let's implement that. You can just call it content here. Content. Then you can use a dot, call it alert. We're going to use the is percent alert with a title, then is presenting with content. So title key, I believe this is one here. I think we can go ahead to start typing. I'm sure I remember correctly, is actually you need to create a text view for this. We're going to pass in the alert details. We're going to use the title for this. If you do not have title, that is totally fine. We just don't show a title, just in case you do not want to show a title. Next is going to be a presenting it. Of course, we're going to call the show alert Boolean. And then we're going to presenting whatever the type is, which is going to be alert details. After that, we want to use a basically an action, a content. So going to show us all the details we want. So we can call detail in. And then here, we're going to say, we're going to make alert, right? So because we could pass in an array of buttons, we're going to need to handle all of that. But before we continue on that, let me create this message. And we're going to also call it detail. And in here, we can actually give the detail of the message that we need. So you can pretty much pass in the details.message. Technically, we could just directly put it into the text instead of that. But since our video detail, okay, never mind. We could do this way, or we can directly put it in there. But let's continue here. Next, we're going to create a private function. So we don't want to expose this to anybody. So make alert buttons, because we could pass in an array of buttons, the custom buttons, but hopefully we don't. But if we do, we want to handle that. Next one, we want to create alert detail, pass in a type, which is the button type. And then we want to return some view as usual for the SwiftUI. And here we're going to call for each, actually, to loop through whatever the buttons we need. And also we're going to identify them based on a ID. Actually, based on the title, sorry. Based on the title. And here we're going to be calling button in. Now you can actually access the button. You can create the button with a you can pretty much create this a regular button, just a title and an action. Title could be the button dot title, and action is going to be button dot action. So then you can call here, make alert buttons, and you can just pass in the detail dot buttons, and it will create all the buttons for your alert. And we can go back. Oh yeah, action is a function. I'm missing that parenthesis. So we can go back to the top here, and we can actually call alert view show alert, passing the show alert, and passing alert details. And then it will handle all the cases for your special case alert. Okay, so now in order to use that, we can go back to our content detail view here. Since we already have this alert here, we want to just have this one single alert that we created. So we can pretty much remove this. We don't really need this here. We can just add the overall view so it can be shown whenever we need it. Then we want to just show alert. Then we want to create this alert detail stuff. So we're going to create a private var, state private var called alert detail. It's going to be optional. And then it's going to be alert detail. Okay, so that in order to use that properly, oh yeah, that is a type. We need an alert detail. So in order to use this properly, we want to give it a function. Let's just say alert. We want to pass in alert detail. And then when that happens, we want to say show alert dot toggle and alert detail equal to alert detail. You can use self. And then we can actually right here, yeah, we can make some adjustment on that. Yeah, we need to pass this as a bindable. So for this button here, we can just say, so each time when we want to pass something, we want to call something, we want to trigger something, we just call alert detail equal to, actually we can just say alert. So let me call this another name, show alert. Show alert, then we create our alert detail with title. It's going to be this is a let's call alert title. Message going to be this is a test alert message. Okay. And technically for this test, we can also create a second button to test a different message. Use just one single alert all over the place. We could call maybe to call this alert1, then call this alert2, and this is a test alert1 message, alert2 message, demo alert1, demo alert2. Okay, let's run this again. And as you can see, when we click into here, you can see the demo alert1 and 2. And if I click on 1 here, it's going to be alert1. This is test alert1 message. And we can test second one. It's going to be a second message. So this is how you achieve the custom alert message for your application. So next, we want to actually properly install those alert whenever an actually potential alert case happen, or whenever there's an error. So since we are actually using a content view, we're downloading stuff, and we also use a cell view to download stuff. As you can see, we're trying to print out this data to show the user. So let's see how many places we actually call the print. We're going to replace those prints with alerts. So we have 2 places. So we want to use exactly strategy here for our alerts. So let's go to content detail here. Let's quickly copy this. And we do not need those here anymore. And we can create this over other place. Let's go to content view first. Now you can create this thing here. And then find your topmost view and add a alert. And you can call show alert and alert details. Next, you want to make it easier to access them, so you can create a function. It's going to call show alert with your alert detail. Alert detail. You want to trigger the show alert toggle, and then you want to pass that alert detail so you can update the data. So then you can replace this part here with show alert, alert detail, you want to say maybe a title going to be error message. It's going to be the error message localized description. So that way you will have this alert here. And we have this one extra alert. Let me remove that. And then we can use the same strategy and add to other place. So your alert will be controlled to just one single place preview, whichever view you need to show different features. So we want to add one here as well. So we do have a task running over here, but we can also add a alert as well. Show alert and alert details. We can go back to content view and copy that. And then we come back to the cell view to create a function. And whenever we need that, we can also go copy over this thing here. And here's our view. So in order to test out those catch errors, let me just do a quick modification on the actual API data. Then you will see the actual alert shows up. Okay, so I made a modification on the API data. So let's download this data here. It should give you an error instead. There we go. It shows an alert that shows the error. The data couldn't be read because it is missing. All right, now you can see whenever something happened with this API downloads, will actually catch the error and shows the error to the user. You can actually deciding whichever error you want to show the user and however the message want to be. Okay, so next is ProgressView, and in SwiftUI we can actually use the ProgressView struct to display a progress indicator. So that is great for tasks that take a long time to complete. such as downloading large files or processing large amounts of data. To use the progress view, we will create a state variable that tracks the progress of the task. Then we will wrap our task in an async block to run it asynchronously. In the background, we will update the progress variable inside the block. So we always update the UI on the main thread with async block. So, and for our case, we only have two plays actually. Technically, only have two plays. We might need to use the progress. One place is this downloading the get API data. Another one is whenever we're trying to download the image. So let's implement a default progress view to show you what that might look like. So let's add a state. Let's call it private var show progress view equals false. And then we want to wrap this thing inside a Z stack so that always show on top of everything. The progress view will always show on top of everything. Let's copy all this. And then we put right here. So right underneath is whatever on top. So anything you in the Z stack from top down is going to be from bottom up on the view. So here we can actually do a quick check to say show progress view. If progress view is true, if show progress view is true, then we're going to show progress view, the default progress view. Otherwise, we don't want to show anything. So in order to do that, we want to show that whenever we're downloading it, before we're downloading stuff, we want to load it up so user can see, okay, we're downloading something. So let's make that a true. And I'm not going to turn it off for now, just so that you guys can see what's happening on the UI level. So let's quickly rerun this. And as you can see, there's a little spinning stuff on the screen. It constantly shows you that it's loading something. But we can actually turn it off whenever we are finished downloading, because the try away will actually blocking whatever the code below trying to call until this get API data come back with the data or fail. Then we want to turn it off. Same as whenever there's an error, we want to turn it off and show the alert. So let's run again, and you will see maybe a quick flash of this spinning, then it will disappear. As you probably catch for a brief moment there, there's quickly spinning there, then it actually turned off. You can see right there, it happened real quick because we don't have any internet downloading speed issues. But you will see whenever maybe have bad signal, or you might have a big chunk of data that come in. So we can actually implement the same thing for the downloading image views. And we can put right here. Also, same thing, we can wrap in the Z stack. We can put everything in the Z stack. And we can go to the content view, copy over whatever this is. And you will see the spinning happens on each of individual images or each individual cells. Okay, so let me do a show progress view equal to true. We want to turn it off whenever we finish. Same as whenever we have error, we want to turn it off. So run again. It happened really quick, so you don't see anything. And also because we already downloaded the image, so it's being cached, so the speed also definitely increased because we don't need to download at all. But we can also have a more customized view look of this progress view. So in order to do that, we want to create a new class or new struct in our custom view here. Let's call it a, let's call it a custom progress. Custom progress. So of course we want to import SwiftUI just in case we need something. We definitely need a enum, for example. If you want to scale your spinning, the progress view become different sizes. You can also do that. But we're going to make it easier, so we're going to call it scale size. It's going to be a CG flow. And it's going to be a case small equal to maybe 1.0, case medium equal to 2.0, case large going to be equal to 3.0. Next, we're going to have a struct. It's going to be calling custom progress. It's going to be a view. And we want to have some variables so we can, changing things around a little bit. Is visible. It's going to be a boolean equal to false. And var tint color, maybe we want to change the color of the progress view. So we can pass in a default color for now. We're going to just use the default UI color that Apple provides, label. And we want to also have a scale size. This scale size, by default, is going to be a medium. After that, we want to create our normal body. We want to group everything together to make it easier. Or you don't have to. It's easier to use that to group different components together into one. It's a way for SwiftUI to handle all of you together. So it's visible. Then you can say custom progress. We actually want to create another var to handle all the details, because otherwise it's going to be a lot of code there. It could be more depending on how much customization you want to add it. So let's just say we want to custom progress view here. So some view, we're going to call it Z stack here. So we can add a color. We're going to give maybe a default system background color. You can give whatever color based on your need here. I'm gonna show those with just a demo purpose. Next, you can add maybe try to ignore the safe area if you have something you want to show in a certain place on the view. Next, we can also give a opacity with 0.5, so it looks like a little bit gray, or you can just directly use a gray color. Here I'm just simply show you what you can do here. Next, you can create your progress view. So basically we're kind of like creating a padding view, a container view right underneath our spinning progress view. And then afterwards we can actually give a little style. So we can actually use you can use different style. There's plenty of style here. There's automatic. I think it's a circle by default. There's a linear. You can also create something yourself. You can utilize this configuration. In our case, we're going to create a customized circular progress view style. That progress view style, we're not gonna tint. We're gonna maybe I tint with the color of the tint color that we passed in. Next, we want to create a scale effect for our spinner. So I'm going to use a scale size, and you're going to use a raw value. And anchor, you can actually just make a center. You don't have to make it anywhere else. Depending on which view you actually put on, or which view have the Z stack showing stuff that might be showing on a different section of your view. So for now, let's just call that. And then we want to show custom progress view, calling custom progress view, or we're not going to show anything. Technically, you can also adding another thing on this progress view, which is you can adding another VStack, let's say, and you can adding this progress view right into it. Underneath, you can actually add a text. You can say downloading, something like that, or loading, probably better, so we don't have to be dealing with the long text there. And then after that, you can go back to our code here, replace this default ones with custom progress. It's a visible, and then you can say custom is a visible, then then calling the show progress view boolean in there. Same thing applied to the cell view here. So you can simplify your code there. You don't have to deal with the now things there. So let's run again. Keep your eye in the center. You can see there it was spinning and loading and then finished. Let's run that again. I think I might need to adjusting that a little bit because I think the spacing in between is a little bit close. So we can add a spacing there at a 10. You can remove those and run again. Actually, let me just do not shut off the progress view so you can see exactly what's on the screen. Okay. And as you can see here, you are actually blurred the entire screen there, so user cannot tap anything, and you are just keep loading it after you're done. And in theory, if you don't have any issues, whenever you call this show progress view to false, then it will remove this on the screen. Then your user can continue to do whatever they need to do on the screen. So that's how you create the customized progress view for your applications. And that's it for today's tutorial. We learned how to create custom alerts and use a progress view in SwiftUI. And I hope you find this tutorial helpful. So don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel for more SwiftUI tutorials. And thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.